Hello and welcome to the seventh of several online panel discussions with foster parents that we are calling The Arena. Foster Source is partnering with the Colorado Department of Human Services to bring you this series as an opportunity to connect, share real stories and struggles, and proactively seek support. I'm your host, Renee Bernhard. I was a foster parent in Adams County, and I am an adoptive parent. I am the founder and executive director at Foster Source. At Foster Source, we serve foster and kinship parents statewide in Colorado with trauma-informed parenting and support groups, relief items like bunk beds, mattresses, car seats, and weighted items, and therapeutic services like therapy for the caregiver and equine support. We are passionate about serving caregivers so that they can continue fostering so children can remain in placements and heal. In today's episode of The Arena, we're discussing a new type of foster care in Colorado. It's called therapeutic foster care. So far, there are only 23 therapeutic foster homes in Colorado. To be a therapeutic home, it requires an additional 12 hours of specialized training. The Family First Prevention Services Act, otherwise known as Family First, is creating a continuum of foster care so that these kiddos can grow up in the least restrictive setting. Children in therapeutic homes have a higher level of needs, whether they be emotional needs, behavioral needs, or mental health needs. Currently, there are about 400 children in Colorado in a residential or other congregate care setting that we would love to have step into a family setting. Colorado counties and child placement agencies are working to expand the availability of therapeutic foster care across the state to ensure that these children can grow up in families. I'm excited to introduce you to our panelists today. First, we have Rami and Ben. Rami and Ben have been fostering since 2006. They have fostered over 120 children, and they foster for the Smith Agency. Lynette has been fostering for 3 years. She is a single foster parent. She currently parents 3 children in care, along with a 19-year-old son, as well as a niece and a sister-in-law with special needs. Lynette fosters for Kids Crossing. Toni is an alumna of the foster care system. She has been fostering since 2016. She has 2 biological children and currently 2 teens in her care. She fosters for Safi. Welcome everyone to the panel. Let's start with why you decided to become a therapeutic foster home. Ben and Rami, tell us why you made that transition.
Well, we started out as foster parents, and then we moved to a group home, and it was a group home, not a group center, because we had it in our house after 8 years, and then we did the group home up until a few months ago when the therapeutic homes came up because of the Families First, and we felt because we did it in our home, it was probably better to move to therapeutic foster home because people don't like that group home.
Nice. Lynette, you say your experience as a caregiver to your niece and sister-in-law really helped you have the confidence to do therapeutic foster care. Tell us about that.
It did. I have been a pediatric nurse before I did fostering, and when I jumped into fostering, I know a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to get babies and toddlers and everything's going to be rainbows and cookies, but it doesn't usually work like that. And so I was given the older kids, like 8 and above, that had very traumatic backgrounds, and it was a lot to take in. And so when they brought about the therapeutic foster home and the extra training that we would have to go through, it just made sense to me because I was already with these kids that were going through these things. And for me, it was being able to understand them better and give them better care by doing the extra training and understanding them better. So it also helped with my niece and my sister-in-law who are special needs and giving me tools that I could use to help them as well.
Yeah. Toni, you were in the foster care system as a child, and you say you felt like it was your path to become a foster parent. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, absolutely. like you said, I was in the foster system from age 7 and then adopted at age 12. And through that course, lived in 4 to 5 different homes, and I learned a lot of tools to cope with change. And I really thought that I had a vision growing up. I wanted to foster. I wanted to be what I needed and what I've also seen that I had when I was a kid. I really wanted to hone in on that, and I have a great passion just because I feel like I could relate so deeply.
Absolutely. When we train our foster parents, we always feel like listening to those who were in care is one of the most important things we can do to learn how to be better foster parents. I'm interested from all of you how your agency helped prepare you to level up to be a therapeutic foster home. Lynette, you talked a lot about TBRI. How does that help you as a therapeutic home? And what is TBRI?
Well, they gave me courses. I had Zoom classes. I had tests that I had to take. I had people that reached out and we did phone calls. And it's just the traumatics of what these kids go through and how to deal with that. Because nowadays they talk about gentle parenting and those kind of things. And when you have a child that comes from such a traumatic background and they don't know how to regulate themselves, or you as a parent maybe don't know how to get on their level and understand what they're going through if you haven't been through it yourself, it just really breaks it down into sections and teaches you, how to deal with these kids if they're in one of the most big feelings that they can have. It's how to break that down, get them to trust you, get them to know that they can talk to you and just really de-escalate a situation that could potentially get out of hand. And it was great help. Like everyone that I dealt with at my, Kids Crossing, they were there for me. I mean, it didn't matter what time of day or night, I could call them and they were right there telling me like, let's do it this way. Let's try this, let's get them help through this. And so it was a big part of learning that I, as an adult and have raised my own children, had never been through. And that would have been helpful just to raise my own children, let alone, having foster kids that were going through things. So it was very enlightening for me, and I really enjoyed it. And I don't ever mind taking refresher courses or asking for help because it really does. And every situation is different. So you need that support.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tony, your training for Therapeutic lasted about a month and a half longer, in addition to your foster parent training, and focused a lot on trauma and the brain. Why is that so important? Isn't love enough?
I would love to say love is enough because obviously the kiddos in your home need tons of love. But you need to be informed and educated. And, speaking from having 2 kiddos with what you would say some of the same trauma coming from the same home, but their reactions to that trauma is very different. So being trauma informed and having the training and support is really crucial to making sure, you're able to take care of that kid and help them with their needs. And like every kid is not the same, right? So their needs are not going to be the same. The way you parent maybe look a little different based off of what they need. So absolutely wish I could say love is enough.
It is not enough, is it? To foster any child, you need a lot of support, but in therapeutic care, there's an additional layer of support that is needed. Rami, can you tell us about what your ongoing support looks like, really from any area, whether it's the school or do you have a CASA on any of your cases, anything that your agency does to provide ongoing support?
We expect from doing this for this many years, to have support from all angles, whether it's the professionals, the therapists, the family, the agency. And it's very vital to the foster parents that we do get that support because the kid does live with us in our home and we're the ones that deal with the behaviors 24/7. And, support is just very, very important from everybody. If you have one person that is not supporting you, the child usually can figure that out, and we'll go to that person and we'll triangulate. So support is very important from CASAs, therapists, from everybody, and we kind of make that clear when we get a child. Like, we just all have to stay on the same page. We all need to communicate. If we have something we're not agreeing upon, we need to discuss it, because it's hard enough to foster. When you don't have that support, it makes it even harder.
Absolutely. When we work with potential foster parents, they obviously want to know what are the kids like. And I think in general foster care and in therapeutic care, there is often a honeymoon phase when a child first enters the home. Lynette, tell us a little bit about what the honeymoon phase is.
Oh my. The kid has their day when they arrive in your home, and they're of course usually very quiet and timid and to themselves, and I could only understand that because you would take yourself as an example and think that you're just thrust into this home across town with people you don't even know, and you have no idea what their lifestyle is like, and what do they eat for dinner, and when do they wake up, and they're just pretty much forced into this home where you have to just get to know these people. And so they're on their best behavior, and they're quiet, and they do everything you ask them to do because, they're scared. They don't know what to think. And that can last anywhere from a few days to a couple months. And the more that they get comfortable in your home and around you and kind of getting to know what the routine is, then kind of what I say, the real them comes out. And so anything that they're dealing with, whether it's trauma or not, is going to start to come out. So, you get past that honeymoon phase where they're doing everything right and they're just the golden child, and then you may get lying that starts, or stealing, or destruction of property, tantrums, and then you're into the real person that they are and what they're going through. And that's when the real work begins, is when that honeymoon phase is over and you kind of get to know that child and start to peel back those layers of the onion to find out what's really going on with them.
Absolutely. When the honeymoon phase is over, that means they're exhaling and starting to feel comfortable. And that's when the healing can really begin. So as easy as the honeymoon phase can sometimes be, after that is really the important part. And Tony, you said, and you're so right, kids have good days and kids have bad days, just like all of us do. And it's important that our children know that we're loving them and caring for them unconditionally. They're allowed to have bad days. You also mentioned how challenging it can be for them at school. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
The trauma in school is so different, and working with the school proved to be one of my obstacles to make sure that we're putting the kids first, and we're also understanding that it may look different. Things may, be different for you, for what you expect in, your classroom, but we have to work together to make sure, number one, this kiddo feels safe in the school, that they can come and they have come to you and they have trusted adults to speak to. One of the things we work with our kiddos is, who are your trusted people at school? Whenever you're feeling down or you want to let it out, call your trusted person, ask to speak to them, and we work with the school to have that process as well. Another thing is getting the school to have regular meetings with you, and the school wants to make this great for the kid too. Again, they may not be trauma educated, but you got to work with them, and sometimes it is educating the school, and it's a learning curve for everyone. But working together is super important. So we're seeing an uphill. So I would say it's getting better, for sure, when it comes to the school. But that was a big obstacle.
Absolutely. We want to talk a little bit about behaviors now. Lynette, you told us you have to remain calm. How is that possible?
Lots of practice. I do remember back when I very first started, and my very first case was a firecracker. This kiddo, when you're getting into fostering, And I say it now with humor, but back then it was not funny. And like, I felt like, oh, they're giving me the hardest case out there to see if I can really do this, is how it felt. Because this kiddo really put me through the ringer. And you have to realize in the situation, even with all of training, it is a situation. And you get to that moment where you're human too. And you have to say, okay, wait a minute. If I escalate as well as this kid escalating, this is going to go south so easy. So I have to remain calm. I have to stay level-headed. I have to remember my training, and I have to utilize that, because if I don't, this is going to be really bad, and it's going to produce even more trauma for this child. And that's what you're trying to prevent. So in that, no matter, I don't care what the kid is saying to you. I've had remote controls chucked across my living room. I've been through it all. And you just really have to stay calm for them, because the calmer you are and the calmer you keep your voice and your tone, they're not used to that. They're used to chaos and to anger and abuse and neglect and all of that. So when that happens, I noticed that my kiddo would go through that tantrum, and then all of a sudden you could see it come over their face. Like, wait a minute, she's not getting angry with me. She's not putting her hands on me. What is she doing? And they would calm down, and then they would just look at me with this look like, this is not what I'm used to. Why is she not doing what I'm used to? And that's what would calm that kiddo down. And we ended up having the most loving relationship. Like, it was really hard to let that kiddo go back home, because literally the whole month before they went home, it was almost like the honeymoon phase again, but it was real this time. Like, that kiddo loved me and gave me hugs and told me how their day at school was and didn't give any issues, and went to bed on time. And it was just so nice. And that's how I knew that I had gotten through to them, and that they knew that there was something better out there. And that was what sealed the deal for me as being and continuing to be a foster parent, was that joy that I got from that moment was worth all of the tantrums, all of the yelling, all of the everything that went on in that very first case.
You've brought us our first tear, which we always have tears on the panel, so thank you, Lynette, for that. What you're describing is what children from trauma experience called emotional contagion. So when they are in a tantrum and see that you are remaining calm, they are actually able to adjust their energy to yours. So that's the gift that you gave them, and after a while it becomes not a contagion, it becomes their inner core, and they are able to be that genuine calm afterwards, like you described. So that was amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Tony, you talk about how important it is to try to recognize triggers. And I think as caregivers, sometimes we don't really consider what triggers could be. We've had children in care whose trigger might be driving past a particular park or a particular scent. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the triggers you've seen and how you can recognize them?
Yes. So one of my kiddos, if he had a bad day at school, he would come home, tell me about that day, and telling me about that day, as odd as it sounds, was the trigger, because he was waiting for my reaction. And as the time went on, that trigger went away, because I let him know there's no bad day or good day that's going to make me love you less. We all have good and bad days. I have good and bad days. But dealing with probably past situations, maybe that wasn't the same response he got. It's a bad day. Let's try to have a better day tomorrow, now that we talked it out and seen what happened. And sometimes it's a kid, was mean, you know what I mean? The little things that hurt your feelings, and it resulted in a bad day. So having a plan in place of, hey, if that happens again, what can you do to, not get upset by it, which could just be, if the kid's being mean, walk away or tell a teacher, things like that. And, I don't want to go on, but the triggers look different and this kiddo than this kiddo's sibling. So that's another time.
Right? It's part of the journey with every child is to find a way to recognize that. Thank you. Thank you, Tony. Lynette, at Kids Crossing, you have what's called a home coordinator. And you said you've had incredible support from that person, sometimes daily.
I feel like I've been very blessed, at least in my role, because I've had not only her, but the therapists, the CASA workers, the schools, everybody that I have encountered in this journey has been so supportive of me and the situations that arise and the things that go on with these kids. So I really do. I feel very blessed, and I just wish everyone's journey was just as good, because I do know that it can be hard when you don't have that support. But she is phenomenal, and I wouldn't ask for another one no matter what. She is top of the line.
I love it. I love, love, love to hear that from caregivers. Tony, your agency, Safi, you said is very realistic about referrals. What do you mean by that?
Yes. So when you start, you fill out a form, and then even after filling out a form, you also have a conversation in depth with the home study specialist and with the family specialist. And when I say they're very realistic, they send you referrals that work in a sense for your family, meaning it's not going to further traumatize a kiddo. And to give an example, some kiddos need to be in a home where it's just one or two kids, or just younger kids, or just older kids. And when I say they're very realistic, they're not setting you up to fail. They're not sending you referrals that are out of sorts. That just doesn't make sense for the kiddo or your family. And one of the things I really do appreciate and love is, even if, we get those referrals, that may seem like a great match, and we say, you know what, not right now, or we don't think this is a good match based off of maybe some situations with our current kiddos, and we want to do what's best for that referral, that child, and also our children that's in the home currently. And they're really good. Like, thank you for putting the kids first. Thank you for thinking of this referral and your family. And I love it. It makes me feel empowered to be able to say no, because a lot of times some foster parents, we feel that guilt of saying no to a referral, and they really want to do what's best for not just your family, but for the kiddos. So say no, be empowered, because you got to do what's best for everyone.
Yes, we want the placement to be stable from the beginning so that the child doesn't have to move again. So if we know in the beginning that it's not a good plan, say no. It's okay. Thank you, Tony. We need foster parents to level up to therapeutic foster care, and people are nervous. I'd like to ask each of you, what would you tell a foster parent considering being a therapeutic foster parent? Ben and Rami, you say, don't take yourselves too seriously. What else would you tell a potential therapeutic foster parent?
Go for it, because it's rewarding in the end, It doesn't seem like it when you have the child and they're yelling and screaming and you're like, oh, what did I do? But in the end, when they're out of the system and they're calling you and saying, hey, thank you, I'm doing this or I'm doing that, that's when it all comes back full circle. So in your mind, you can say, I remember when nobody would take this kid. He would break everything, and he was one of our best, and he's still talking to us today, so.
Awesome. Lynette, you say it's very rewarding to be a therapeutic foster parent, but that self-care is critical. Tell us how you came to that realization.
My journey. I, of course, probably like most foster parents, I jumped in feet first. I was gung-ho. This is what I want to do. And as everybody else on the panel has explained, you have the kids, you have the honeymoon phase, you have the trials and tribulations that you go through and their feelings, and you're just trying to be that one source that never dies, that never gives up. You're always there for them. But at the end of the day, you got to take a moment to sit back and reflect and say, okay, I have spent all this time filling everybody else's cup and mine is completely empty and I don't have anything else to give. What do I do now? And I did that for a long time, not realizing that my cup was so empty. And it finally hit me one day and I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't taken 10 minutes to sit in my room and read a book or go take a hot bath, like you jump in the shower and you jump back out hoping nothing happened in the house while you were gone. And I had to start realizing, okay, if I want to continue this journey and I want to be the best foster parent I can be, I'm going to have to not feel guilty about taking time for myself. I'm going to have to take those hot baths. I'm going to have somebody come watch the kids and go hang out with a girlfriend at the coffee shop and have, a cup of tea or something, and just be able to vent to my girlfriend and say, I've had a rough week and what's going on in your life. And once I started doing that, it just made everything so much better because then I felt better. I could come back and give more to the kids. And then the process was just so much easier instead of just being on pins and needles all the time and still trying to be there for everyone.
Tony, I would love to hear your input, both as someone who was in care and now parents therapeutically. What would you tell potential therapeutic foster parents?
I would definitely say the commitment's there, and to have the education on top of the commitment to foster these children is amazing. It allows you to provide that right trauma-based parenting. And also, one of the things that I feel is you can have a kiddo come into your home that is traditional, and then you are able to notice therapeutic needs because you had that training and you were able to make the correct referrals and match them with the right references and the right people to guide and help with that process. So I think it's super important to remember that any of our kiddos in our home, bio or foster kiddos, can be therapeutic needs. So having that education and the resources and training is really crucial to spotting that and supporting them.
I think that's an incredible point you just made, that it doesn't just matter to therapeutic children. It matters to every child that comes into your care. If you are an experienced foster parent or a professional with experience in trauma-informed care, therapeutic foster care might be for you. Currently, SAFI, Specialized Alternatives for Children and Youth, the Smith Agency, Kids Crossing, Savio House, Special Kids, Special Families, La Plata County, Weld County Department of Human Services, and the Hope and Home Agency train and certify parents for therapeutic foster care. If you're interested in learning more about foster care in Colorado, visit coforkids.org for more information and to request follow-up from your local county human services department. I'm Renee Bernhard. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.